about my Snake Eyes review into this? I don't think
Oh,
you're
we
gonna
can
watch
talk
that.
about it.
We can talk
No,
about it.
we can talk about it because I've tried twice to watch it.
Really?
Yeah. So, and this is where the bit's gonna come in. It's about Snake Eyes.
Oh,
Okay.
that's good.
So,
Well,
first of all,
I actually watched the movie.
yeah. Let me just tell. Yeah, I'll let you review it afterwards. Let me just tell you like my experience with it so far.
Okay.
So unfortunately, the only version of it on F Movies is a cam recording, and it's not great, but that didn't stop me from like trying to watch it. Because I was like, whatever. I'm like, I'll just turn it on before I go to bed. I'll probably fall asleep, but I'll just watch it like every night till I finish it. So I turn it on, and it's just really boring and bad and not unique or like it's like it opens up on like son with dad, and it appears that they're having a good time, but dad is anxious about something that he doesn't want to tell son, and then dad gets murdered in front of son later, and you're just like and there's this stupid fucking scene where he, like the dad dies like gambling for his life or some shit, and he like rolls Snake Eyes.
Right.
Oh man! And then it's like flash forward to son in an unregulated cage match, and it's like, oh,
that was really cliche.
a million times, bro.
Right, yeah.
I've seen this movie a million fucking times, so I just turned it off. I was like, I don't want to watch this. and then like 2 days later, I was like, okay, I haven't talked to Chris in a while, so I have like a lot of time before I probably will. So I'll try and watch this shit again. So I started it from where I left off.
At least you get spoiled about
which is where discount Ken Watanabe comes in.
Oh, and, he wishes he was discount Ken Watanabe.
And recruits him for the docks. And then the title...
Right. Yeah.
And then the title comes up, and it's like Snake Eyes, a G.I. Joe origin. I'm just like, ugh. So I'm watching, he's like putting guns in fish or doing something. And I'm like, okay, he's doing something illegal. He's working for some gang or something. And then it turns into one of those, like, for some reason, we got the new guy. Like, he's putting guns in fish and he's not telling anyone about it. But for some reason, we don't trust him until he kills somebody. So then he's got to... So then, which is crazy, because it's like, we don't trust this guy. Let's give him the only gun we have and hope he doesn't kill us. It's like, what if he just shoots the guy that gives him the gun, who's the leader of the entire gang? So this is really stupid. So then, of course, he's like pointing it at the guy that's like, whose loyalty is in question, who I guess is like his friend or something. I don't know, but he has some kind of like, I think there's a little bit more to it than he's just such a good character that he doesn't want to like, morally good character that he doesn't want to like murder this guy in cold blood. And then it turns into like the first fight scene of the movie, and it's fucking terrible.
Okay, so hold on. I think that scene where they're running through the docks and everything, I think that was pretty cool.
Ugh. Yeah, bad taste in action.
Okay, so I thought the choreography was really cool. It's just the camera was really bad.
How did you think dude? Okay, so here, I'm actually glad we brought up the raid. So in the raid, the main character gets in like a few different fight scenes where he fights multiple guys. I think there's like one scene where he fights like 4 guys with machetes. And that's already kind of unbelievable, but the choreography and everything is so good that you kind of think like this guy could actually maybe fight 4 guys at once, and like, because they all like attack, and like when, dude, 20 fucking guys show up with like katanas to fight 2 dudes.
Yeah.
In order for them to win, 17 of those guys have to be on their phone while the fight's happening. So, no, the choreography is not good because you have too many fucking guys. And that's the thing, is like the camera's like moving all over the place and it looks like a big brawl.
Yeah, that was really bad. It was like
only 2 of them should be fighting.
Action. Yeah. It was really hard to follow the action because the camera
which it shouldn't be because there's only 2 enemies. It's not like it's not like they got a bunch of backup.
But they started running, dude. It was giving me motion sickness. Like I had to look away from the screen.
I got like mad. I got mad Last Jedi vibes from it. I got the throne room scene vibe because I was just like, there's too many guys and like not enough protagonists. And so you could just tell that the guys in the background are just like flailing and shit to just like add like motion blur to the scene, basically. And it's just like, ugh. And also, like, I didn't like how the fight scenes, because like this is super unrealistic. It's like,
So hold
this
on,
is the fucking
you bogarted this review. First of all, you bogarted this review. You watched 10 minutes of the movie, and
because
then
this is all,
you're
this is all I have to
reviewing
say
this.
because I turned it off after this scene. So this is all I have to say. But it was like enough to get. I was just like, oh man, this is so bad. I don't even want to watch the rest. Because like also even before they start fighting, it's like this is you literally had guns in fish, but then this guy doesn't shoot that gun, and then nobody's got a gun to shoot both of them and just like carry on with you got guns to put in fish. You can't just be standing around fighting every fucking guy that doesn't want to shoot his friend in the face. Just shoot them both in the face and get back to the fish packing. So that was really dumb as well, because it's like in order for this fight scene to happen, it's like nobody else has a gun. And they're just like, it's like one of those scenes where the guy's like, oh, I want to see how good my guys are at fighting. Well, they all suck, apparently. You're really bad at recruiting people. So,
yeah.
Okay. And then like, I don't know. So then I was just thinking like, and then there's like one part where the guy has like his hands behind his back and he like shows that they're tied, and I don't know. And then he gets a sword and I was like, oh, and there was like a couple setups where it looked like he was like gonna die. And I was like, oh, well, this is going to be like, I don't know why this guy needs to see another guy die, because he saw his dad die. And that's all the impetus he needs to like do the whole movie. But I'm like, oh, he's going to see like another guy die, and that will be like another thing that I don't know. But then the guy doesn't die. Like, nobody dies. They both get away. Yeah. And I was just like, oh my God.
The whole scene, so like the part with the swords in the truck?
Yeah, it was just super dumb.
Yeah, I thought the way they ended it was pretty lackluster. Is that where you turned it off?
So they like it was like a wide shot of like a new building, and there was like a car driving to it.
Okay, and then you turned it off.
And that's when I turned it off, because I was just thinking
that's
like
a major distinction. Then that's a huge difference. You turned it off 20 seconds after I mentioned.
I'm just making sure that you know exactly where I turned it off.
Okay. So here are my thoughts on the movie. So there's this part where the guy, who we later find out that he's the friend that he's saving, right? The guy that he didn't shoot.
Yeah.
He comes out with like two swords. Like I don't know. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, the fight scene was like really hard to track because like the camera was moving around everywhere, and the way it ended, like in the truck with all the swords and the thing, that wasn't that cool. But I'm like, okay, well, I'm teetering on the edge. I'm half and half. Maybe it'll be good after this.
I was thinking, like, did you take Gabby to go see this?
No, I went by myself.
Okay, because I was thinking that, like, if I was Gabby with you, I would have, like, just turned to you as that scene ended and been like, I kind of hate you. And I'm, like, regretting everything about my life with you.
I'll tell you this. I looked at my phone pretty early on in the movie.
Yeah, that's not a good sign.
After that, throughout. Well, okay, so I thought it's kind of like the movie started with the thing with his dad getting killed by that guy, and then the movie started again when he met the other guy and didn't kill him.
Discount Ken Watanabe. Oh, yeah. The doc scene.
That one. Yeah, and then, the movie started again when he was fighting in the cage match, and Ken Watanabe guy told him that I know who killed your dad. And then the movie started again when he met his friend who he saved from being killed by the Yakuza or whatever. So
I did get that feeling I did get that feeling as well, where I was like, dude, is this movie ever gonna fucking start?
Yeah. So after that, I was like, okay, this is cool, because like it turns out the guy he saved was a spy on the Yakuza, and he's like a rich guy in Japan, and he's like, I owe you like my life, and you can come and live with my family. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. And so the guy dresses in all white throughout the whole movie. So I'm like, okay, this guy's like going to be Storm Shadow. But how does that work? Because he's like a good guy. They're both good guys. So like Storm Shadow is like a bad guy in G.I. Joe universe. Anyway, so yeah. So then it's like, okay, so he wants him. What does he want him to do? He wants him to live with his family now in Japan, but. I guess, but he's got his own path. He's trying to find the guy that killed his dad. But like, Okay, so then it turns out that he's working with the discount Ken Watanabe again, and he's like, "Oh, I need you to infiltrate this family," because it turns out the discount Ken Watanabe is like an outcast. He's also a member of the family, but he's like outcast from them. So he's trying to like destroy that family because it's like one of the most powerful families in Japan or whatever. But it's like, I mean, was that the plan the whole time, or was so? I don't get that. Like, was
I
the
don't
plan the
know.
whole time for him to infiltrate the Yakuza just so he could meet that guy? Just so that he could save his life, so that that guy could take him to his family, so that he could
Which
actually
is very
infiltrate the
contrived
family.
and
Yeah,
coincidental.
it's convoluted, is what it is. It's so like yeah, and it's like this is GI Joe movie. It doesn't need to be that complicated. Like you need to have a bad guy, and he's like trying to hurt a bunch of people, and then you're like fighting all his guys, and that's all it has to be. That's all it has
Yeah.
to be.
I I felt the same way even though I only watched that. Like I was like, why do we need to know that this guy's dad died in front of him when he's like I'm like, we don't care. Like we know he's like he's a badass from the fucking GI Joe universe. And like just show us his training, show us his like
Yeah,
acquiring the skills that he's going to use later, that's going to be some kind of like payoff scene that we, it's like show him later making the basketball shot that he misses in the beginning or whatever.
right,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like easy shit. I don't need this other dumb shit. Like it doesn't change anything for me other than I'm bored that you show
So
me that his dad died.
So yeah, and so in a way, like it's also kind of retconned because I think it was in GI Joe Retaliation where they showed an origin story for Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, and they were kids, and Storm Shadow was like being trained by I don't know, it was like ancient martial arts master or whatever, and Snake Eyes is like this poor like homeless kid, and the master took him in and trained them both, and actually started to like Snake Eyes better, and that's why Storm Shadow always resented Snake Eyes is because he was the favorite, and Storm Shadow lived a life of privilege. But like, yeah, so that story is like totally retconned
Yeah,
because in
totally
this
removed from this.
right in this story they didn't meet until they were adults, and it's just completely different. So I don't know if this is like a reboot of the franchise. Um, but okay, so here's another thing. Like, so there's a part where they're fighting some guys in the rain, and one of the guys is Discount Watanabe,
Mhm.
and they're fighting them in the rain, and then there's other guys, and they're like trying to move crates or something. I don't know what they're doing. Uh, yeah, it was just really hard to keep track of what's going on in this story. But the guys that they're moving crates, and one of them opens a crate, and you see the symbol for Cobra, but nobody says anything. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. It's like subtle. It's like, oh, okay, I remember this is a GI Joe movie, and they don't have to like come out and just say it. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
ham fisted. But then in a later scene, after like they beat all the guys and they're going back through the stuff, the crates and everything, then someone looks at the symbol and they're like Cobra, and it's like why? Why did you have to say that? We know what this. We know it's a GI Joe movie. We know Cobra exists. And then in a later scene, they contact Scarlet. Okay, Scarlet is a character from. She was in the other two movies.
Mhm.
She was in the first movie played by one actress, in the second movie a second actress, and in this movie played by a third actress. So it's a different person every time. So I
Um,
don't know if Scarlett is just a code name or whatever. But anyway, they get her on a video call, and she's like in a hotel, and she's like, "Oh, okay, let me, I'm kind of busy right now." And then she goes in the bathroom, and she's still on the video call. And then like all these guys follow her in, and then she like beats them all up while she's on the video call. And then she
oh
has
boy.
like one guy in front of the phone, and she's like got him in a headlock or whatever until he passes out, like in the video call. And it's like, why do you have to do that? Well, can you be like, let me just call you back. Let me just call you back because I gotta beat up these guys. Why do I have to put the phone down in a way that can capture what I'm doing? Like, who would do that? Who would do that? And after she beats the guy with the headlock, she like opens his jacket and has a pin with the Cobra symbol on it. And then she says Cobra. And it's like, how dumb do you think we are? How dumb do you think we are as an audience that like we don't know what that symbol means, even though we just saw it earlier in the movie and it's already been explained to us what that means. And before they made the call, they're like, oh, it turns out these guys are working with Cobra, and so we need to contact the GI Joes and get in touch with Scarlet. And then she's like, "Oh, these guys are Cobra. Like, why?" And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because like they could have just contacted her and she was like on a plane about to drop in on a mission or whatever, and the same amount of information would have been conveyed to the audience.
Uh-huh.
Some of the things I did like about this movie, there was some really cool motorcycle shit. Like the sounds of the motorcycle, the models of the motorcycles they rode were really cool. Their motorcycle suits were really cool. But there was an action scene where they were on a freeway and they were like fighting
Yeah.
people with motorcycles, and then okay, this is later in the movie, but
That's like something I've seen from the trailer.
right. So Snake Eyes takes their stuff from the rich family and leaves, and they're like, oh, okay, well, he's a piece of shit. We need to go after him. So what the whole thing's about? They're about this jewel that has like power or something. I don't know. He takes it out of the rich family's house and
Uh-huh.
he gives it over to Cobra so that they would give him the guy that killed his parents.
Mm.
And then the Storm Shadow guy, who's still a good guy, and then his head of security follow him. And so they're following him for most of the movie until he decides, like, he has a change of heart. He wants to give the jewel back. He needs to get it from Cobra, and he wants to help the family that he left.
Wait, so he
Anyway,
gave them the jewel already?
yeah, so he gives the
And then
jewel to
they didn't.
Cobra.
Did they give him the dad killer?
They did. And then
Did
he
he-
goes in and decides that he doesn't want to kill him because,
Of course.
well, yeah, because he finds out that the guy that killed his dad was working with Cobra. And he has a realization that he just worked with Cobra to find the guy that killed his dad, so he's just as bad as he is. Honestly, I thought that was okay. Like that was pretty well executed. But still, it would have been cool if he killed him anyway, because he's like Snake Eyes. He's not like an all good character. But whatever. This is a movie for kids. Anyway, so the Storm Shadow and the head of security are following Snake Eyes on his bike, and then Snake Eyes is following Cobra guys, and then he like attacks one of the Cobra guys, and then immediately the head of security was like, "Did you see that? He attacked the Cobra guy. I guess he's on our side now." That's like literally a line in the movie, and it's like, like who would put that together in their mind, like while they're riding a motorcycle in the middle of an action scene? Like who would put that together and articulate it to the other person? Like I feel like that's really
The Knights of Ren.
silly, and
Cool.
yeah, and that's also a like a major conclusion to jump to when you see the actions that led up to where he is right now, and then you're like, oh, he killed one Cobra guy, so I guess he's a good guy. He had a complete change of heart. He met with the guy that killed his dad and realized that he doesn't want to be as bad as him. Like, how can you like put all that together in your mind in the span of like 2 seconds, and then completely change your objective? I guess like to understand what I'm saying, I guess you would have had to see the movie.
I mean, it makes
Uh,
sense what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway,
I get the outrage.
yeah, that's that's
And the
really dumb.
stupidity.
Also, like the family is holding on to this jewel, and apparently it has magic powers because Snake Eyes gives Ken Watanabe, discount Ken Watanabe, the jewel. That yeah, he gives him the jewel, and then he uses the jewel. He like squeezes it really hard, and it like shoots out like magic and kills this guy. And and that's how he uses it for the rest of the movie. And it just feels like it really doesn't fit in a GI Joe movie because
Yeah,
in the other two GI Joe movies, they're mostly about nanobots. So like basically all the shit that happened that was crazy like could be explained with
sure.
technology, but this is like magic,
Yeah,
and so it just feels really out of place.
magic. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it fits in this world.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so like of
Like
all the
calls to
characters
reconsideration.
from the other GI Joe movies, I don't know why they chose to bring back Scarlet. I wouldn't
Such a
say she
strong
was.
female character.
I guess, but I mean, this is a movie about Snake Eyes. If they really wanted that, why don't you just make Snake Eyes a trans woman of color? Kind of call it a day. Yeah, but
Because
yeah.
you
So
gotta
I
appeal to
just
China.
yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, so the side characters can be white, none of the main characters.
Well, the main character can't be trans or a woman.
Oh yeah, or gay or
That's what I
black.
meant. Yeah,
I was surprised there was a black guy in this movie. He didn't do that much.
he
He
like
was
served
the
someone
blind
rice.
master. What?
Said he like served someone rice.
Yeah, no, he was a blind master, so he like was a trainer. Also, okay, so there's another thing. Okay, so this movie's about Snake Eyes is trying to find the person that killed his dad, but also when he joins the family, they're like, okay, well, we'll let you be part of our family, but you have to pass these 3 tests.
Oh man.
And I'm kind of like, why does he care about trying to pass those tests? Because like that wasn't his main objective. Now you've just met this guy. Like, why does he care about passing those tests? But he passes the first test, and then he passes the second test, and eh, then he like does other stuff. Like you go back to the A part of the movie where he's trying to the family's trying to go after the guy that's trying to destroy the family, discount Ken Watanabe. They're going after him, and he's working with Cobra in order to get the jewel. And he's got his guys moving Cobra weapons around. I don't even know. It's just like it's like 2 stories going on simultaneously that like try to be the main story. It's not like a plot and a subplot. It's like 2 main plots.
Okay.
But the
It's
plot
just
about
messy.
him passing the test is just really not compelling. So
Gotcha.
it just feels superfluous. Anyway, he goes back to the third test. He has to pass the third test, and this is what the third test
Can you
is.
go over the first 2 tests? Are they like super?
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, so the first
What's
test
the
is
first
there.
test?
He's fighting another martial arts guy who is
Uh,
also a trainer for the family, and they're both holding a bowl of water, and they're like, you have to fight each other and
no spells.
get yeah, basically, and get the other person's bowl of water, or you lose.
But you have to
And
get it from them,
yeah, you have to get it from them,
and you
or
can't
like make
spill
them
it either.
spill it, and you can't spill your own.
Okay.
I don't really know what the exact rules were, but anyway, they're fighting, and he gets his ass beat like twice, and he can only fail 3 times, and then he fails. He fails the whole thing. So he gets his ass beat twice, and then the third time, he's like, "Oh, I remember they told me I have to cleanse myself of ego and be humble." So he asked the
Uh,
master, the trainer, yeah, he asked the trainer, "Can I please trade bowls with you?" And then he's like, "Okay." And then that was it. They traded bowls, and that was the pass the test. Yeah. The second
um,
test, the
did that
blind
all happen in
master.
like one scene, or was it
Yeah, that
like
was one scene. Yeah,
okay? So
it
it was
wasn't a
like all
montage.
3 attempts in one scene.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And the second test he had to do was this was the dumbest one. The blind master is like follow the fire. It's like a light. It looks like a firefly, but it's just a light. Go around.
Uh,
He's like follow the light, and it will show you what you fear the most.
oh my
And then
god.
he does, and then he goes to a tree with a bunch of lights, and then he has a flashback where his dad gets killed or something like that. And then he wakes up, and that was it. It's like, did you pass or did you not pass? Like, I don't get how is that a test? That's not a test. That like your test is to read this paragraph. It's like okay, then what? That's it. That's the test. I mean, anyway. So the third test is he goes into a pit. They're like, we're gonna lower you into this pit, and you step on the stone, and then it opens like a stone door, and a giant snake comes out. And they're like, the snake will eat you unless you have a pure heart. Then they can't attack you.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I mean, so by this time, it turns out that Snake Eyes had been lying the whole time. He really wanted to find the guy who killed his dad, and he was working with Discount Ken Watanabe to destroy that family.
Mm.
But he was appearing that he wasn't, that he was like being genuine in his motivations. Anyway, the snakes almost kill him, and then the head of security has a soft spot for him because Snake Eyes told her in an earlier scene that he didn't have any family either. And so she
Oh
was
my
taken in by the family.
god.
She didn't have any family. Yeah. So anyway, she jumps in and lets him out, and then the snakes don't attack her. Uh, but yeah, that was anyway. That plot was really bad, and then the ending. Uh,
This
it's
movie was
really
2 hours.
yeah. This was a 2 hour. So was it 2 or was it longer than that?
It says 121 on F movies.
An hour 21 minutes?
Yeah.
No, 121 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's 2 hours. Anyway, The end scene, Ken Watanabe has the jewel and he's blowing shit up. He like attacks their house and everything. And he goes in with who's the Cobra girl, Baroness. Okay, she's also been in other movies. Like I think she was in the first one,
Hmm.
or maybe it was the second one. Anyway, it's the girl with like the glasses. This like goth bitch.
I have no idea. I never saw the first one, and I saw the second one once, and it was forever ago.
Wow.
I'm
Okay.
not
Well,
really.
I mean,
I'm not
yeah,
really
I
into
saw
my
both of
G.I.
them a
Joe shit.
lot.
I didn't watch the cartoon when I was young, so like I'm not really into GI Joe.
Oh, I never watched the cartoon. I just like the movies. But anyway, yeah, Baroness, and so he goes into the house of Baroness, who's the only person from Cobra that we get to see in this movie, and uh, then there's like some fight scene, and then all the people, including the mother of the household, who's this old lady. This old lady's fighting people, and I guess you buy it because you're like, okay, well, it's like some Chinese or
Yeah,
Japanese shit where like they use Tai Chi or whatever. I don't know.
sure.
Yeah, where they like they meditate and they like barely move, and then like everybody falls down. Like, okay, I buy it, and because they're so wise that they can do
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? So
You know how many fortune cookies this bitch has eaten in her life?
yeah, she's absorbed all of the lucky numbers. You know?
She's got them all from like 1 to like 1,000,010.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so
So
yeah, they're
lucky.
fighting at the house, and then
Much luck.
yeah, and so it almost looks like the Ken Watanabe discount guy is gonna win, but then they strap like a cart, they strap a bunch of fireworks to a cart, and like roll it at him, and then he gets messed up by that,
Oh.
and then he drops the jewel, and then Storm Shadow goes and picks it up, and then he fucking almost kills him with the jewel. He like squeezes it super hard and almost kills him with it.
Mm.
And then his mom, the old lady, is like, "Give me the jewel back." That's his grandma, I guess. And she's like, "Give me the jewel back." And he gives her the jewel. They go after the guy. And then how does he die at the end? I don't know. He dies at the end. It's not really important.
That's
Um,
the movie.
yeah, pretty much. But also, this is the ending. So Grandma tells Storm Shadow, "You can never be the head of this family because you squeezed the jewel." He's like, "Oh man, it really sucks, man." Because like I wanted to be the head of the family, and they're like, "Well, yeah, but we all swore an oath that we would never squeeze the jewel, and only the bad guy squeezed the jewel, and you saw what happened with him, you know." And he's like, "This fucking sucks. I'm out." And he
Did
leaves
he
the
know?
family.
Did he know that that's like the family's oath?
Yeah, he did, but his thing was like he used it to protect the jewel and the family. They're
Okay.
like, yeah, but we only protect it. We can never use it. That's what Gano said. And that was it. So he leaves, and they're like, you can stay here, Snake Eyes. And then at the end, Scarlet gives Snake Eyes the file on the G.I. Joe file on his dad, who turns out to have been a G.I. Joe agent. And they're
Yeah.
like, there's an opening for another agent if you want. So now I guess they want him to join the GI Joes, and then he's like, "No, there's something I got to do first. I got to go after Storm Shadow." And okay, so they
He's got to
never
do what?
call him what?
He's got to do what?
He's got to go after Storm Shadow, the guy who left,
Why is he got to go after him?
because that's like his brother. Now they went through a lot together.
But he's like got to go after him in
To
like
bring him back to the family.
a.
That's
Why
that's
did he
what
leave then?
he left because he doesn't want to be. He wants to be the head of the family, and he was just upset that the grandma said you're never going to be the head of the family. You
So
can't do
sorry.
it.
So Snake Eyes is like, I gotta go and see if I can talk him down.
Right.
I gotta.
Apparently, that's
If
what
he'll
his
just be a
goal, his
member of the
objective
family
is.
again, he won't be
Yeah.
try and convince him to give up this head of the family shit.
Right. Exactly. Anyway, so then that's the first time we get to see Snake Eyes put on the Snake Eyes outfit. Is when he's walking out of the house to get on the motorcycle at the very end of
Oh
the movie.
man.
Yeah. And man, dude, like that would have been way cooler if he did that in the middle of the movie before the main fight.
Yeah,
At the
it's
end,
not
that would have been
good.
cooler.
when you make a movie about an iconic character and you don't let them wear the iconic shit like the whole movie.
Like, imagine if
That-
they made a Batman movie and he doesn't become Batman to the last 5 seconds of it.
yeah.
Like, you'd be like, that is a shitty fucking Batman movie.
I mean, dude,
Anyway,
I really didn't like it when they did it in Daredevil.
wait,
I
he
mean,
doesn't wear the outfit in Daredevil?
no, in Daredevil, he doesn't get the
In the
Daredevil
show.
suit. Yeah, he doesn't get the Daredevil suit
Okay.
till like season
Yeah.
2.
Yeah. Well, I
And,
mean,
like,
that's fine. He was like blindfolded and he was like
sure, I mean,
still doing Daredevil shit.
it
But
ends up working well. Like, it works fine, but it was just one of those things that like I didn't really like because I don't know. I was like, I thought this was Daredevil. I know he's got like an aesthetic and a suit and all this stuff. So I was, I'm fine with it once I saw the completion, like how they did it. But like while they were building up to it, I was like, oh man, I wish he had this fucking thing. So when you have
right.
a movie like this and you don't have like all these episodes and stuff to like set up like a proper origin where it like really goes from like the inception of like what motivates the character and to like making the hero, like Daredevil did. It's like, dude, just that's what the fans fucking want. That's why they're
Right.
there to see the
Everybody
fucking
wants to
character in
see
the
him as
movie.
Snake Eyes. They don't want
Yeah,
to see
exactly.
this guy that they call Snake Eyes. He's just a regular guy. Anyway, the last scene, it's like almost like after it's a mid-credit scene, and
Of course.
Storm Shadow's on the plane, just
Just finish
chilling.
your movie when your movie's over.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one makes sense. It doesn't add anything to the previous movie we watched, but they're setting up for a sequel, which I don't want to see. But he's sitting on the plane, and then Baroness comes up to him. Which, okay, does it have to be Baroness? Like, could it not have been like Cobra Commander or something? Does Cobra Commander exist yet? Is he or is he not? Then who is Baroness working for? Obviously, there has to be a Cobra Commander if there's a Cobra. So why couldn't it be Cobra Commander appearing to him on the plane? Why does it have to be Baroness recruiting everybody? Anyway, I guess they couldn't afford the makeup or whatever. Anyway, she's like, "Do you want to join Cobra?"
Fencing helmet.
Yeah, it's like basically. Anyway, he's like, "Do you want to join Cobra?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm Storm Shadow now." So like, he's Storm Shadow, but he doesn't get called Storm Shadow until that scene. Like, even though he wears all white
Yeah.
throughout the whole movie, like it's obvious he's Storm Shadow. But overall, okay, so this movie was really boring. There's not a lot of cool action in it,
That's the impression I
especially
got from it.
yeah, especially considering it's a Snake Eyes movie. Like the appeal to me for this movie was that
Ninja
scene
shit.
in GI Joe Retaliation where they're swinging from the mountain and like fighting
Yeah.
with the Kung Fu guys.
Ninja
That
shit.
shit was fucking cool, and I said I want to see a whole movie that's just like that. And you think with the Snake
Wasn't it?
Eyes movie that it would be that, but it's none of it is
Yeah.
anything like that. It's just really boring. And then when there is action, it's nothing we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
So it's just like, just skip this movie. Like, it's not worth your money. It's not worth your time. It could possibly be worth your money, but not worth your time. I don't know. That's a strange category that we're still exploring right now. We're feeling it out. We're testing the waters.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
so
don't watch.
there are some very like niche, but I still don't think it's a very good criteria. I've been workshopping this scale where it's like I have a gun and it starts in a drawer, and by the end of the movie, have I put the gun in my mouth or in a safe in a other part of the room? Yeah,
Put it in my mouth, or do I unload it and put it away? Yeah, that's a pretty good scale. Anyway, yeah, Snake Eyes. I would say I said when I walked out of the theater 4 out of 10, but like thinking about like how bored I was throughout the whole thing, I'm giving it a 2 out of 10. Just very bad. I want them to make more GI Joe movies. I think it's a cool world to explore, but like this wasn't a good direction to go with it. Again, the villain was not that cool. It was really boring and generic. The addition of like magic and mysticism to it just doesn't fit with GI Joe. And calling it a Snake Eyes movie when you have a guy running around with no mask or helmet or anything on, saying that he's Snake Eyes, like that's just not that cool. Like if we had a movie where Bruce Wayne was doing all the Batman shit, but he never was Batman, like that wouldn't be cool. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. Don't watch
So to comment on your like, you think that they should make more GI Joe movies. So here's kind of how I feel about this. So first of all, like we both kind of explained, like we're not really into GI Joe. So right there,
Yeah.
you've already kind of got me on like I could take or leave this shit. 2, we now have 3 movies. I like I said, I haven't seen the first one, but I haven't heard anything good about it. I'm pretty sure Foster and Dallas told me it's like the end is like a straight rip off of like Return of the Jedi or some shit. It's
Which
like
movie?
the first G.I. Joe movie. It's like beat for beat, like the last scene of like on the bridge of the Death Star with Vader and the Emperor and Luke. It's like the exact same beats.
I don't remember it being like that, but maybe
Anyways,
it's
I haven't heard anything good from it. I saw the second one; it was really bad, and I saw like the first 20 minutes of this movie were not like good enough to keep me interested.
Yeah.
So also, I get the feeling that like when movies get made for these like properties, that like a lot of quality assurance goes out the door because they know that like it's just about the marketing and it's just about getting people to trust in the brand and like, oh, I like GI Joe, it's a GI Joe movie, therefore I'll like it and then I'll go see it. Second, and then I don't know what point I'm on now. Fourth, I think all the GI Joe characters are like pretty generic molds. They're not like Snake Eyes is a ninja essentially. He doesn't do anything fucking amazing outside of that. He's basically just a stealthy assassin guy. So I really feel like they shouldn't make any more GI Joe movies because like you could just literally make any character and have them be in the play. You can make army guy movie. You can make ninja guy movie. You can make, you know, whatever guy movie.
So you're saying it doesn't have to be a GI Joe.
It doesn't
movie.
have to be a GI Joe movie.
Yeah.
Like you could just make these, and then maybe because you're not riding on the fucking brand recognition, you'd actually have to make it good. So, yeah, I could care less if they like. I will say that like based on what you said, because when I saw the previews for this movie, like there's so little action in the previews, which is like really
and there's even less in the movie if you can believe that.
Yeah, no, I was like, it's really strange when you're marketing an action movie and the trailer isn't saturated with action scenes. That was something that really stuck out to me, and I was like, these trailers are really conservative. That's how it appeared to me, and so I was thinking like, okay, that might be cool if the movie has like all this action in it that they're like saving up for you, so that when you go see it, it's like really impressive because they didn't spoil everything in the movie. But in the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking, maybe this movie actually doesn't have any action in it, so they don't really have anything to show you. Like maybe all it has is like, because I know in the trailer that it shows them like kind of facing off against each other in the rain, not facing off, but they're like they have their swords out and they're kind of like circling each other, and you're like, oh, that's gonna be a fight. And then there's like the motorcycle scene where it kind of like starts out and it kind of shows you like this is probably going to be like one of the biggest or the biggest action set piece in the movie, and it kind of like wets your whistle a little bit, but it doesn't like spoil too much. I think it shows like one of the motorcycles like kind of going over the truck in the air or something like that. And I'm like, you know, that is a lot to me, but there's still probably a lot more to that scene that I'd probably enjoy it if I saw it. But I did think in the back of my mind, like, this is conservative.
Like, none of it was that cool.
Yeah, I kind of had that intuition when I watched the trailer.
But I'll send this to you. Listen, this is like one of the high points of the movie. This is Baroness in the movie. She was cool. She was way cool in this movie.
She looks like Bayonetta.
Yeah, I guess, but Baroness came out first because G.I. Joe's from the 80s.
I guess so. I mean, I don't know if maybe Bayonetta ripped her off, sure.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that's what she looks like in terms of like what I recognize, so.
Okay. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you were just like more of this, please.
Right. If they made an origin movie about her, I'd watch that, and it'd probably be worse than this, but I'd still watch it.
Okay.
So yeah, one of the high points of the movie. Some of the other positives, because I don't want to make it all negative, but I'm pretty sure
you can make it all negative if it's not.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I said everything.
I feel like you were fair in the parts that warranted it, but it sounds like overall it was like not great.
Overall it was
everything that you described to me. It just sounded like incredibly generic. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
you
there's
can't, you
nothing
won't get
special about
attacked
this
if you're
movie.
like pure of heart, and it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, she has a soft spot for him because she also doesn't have a family. It's like this
Right.
gun is moving from the drawer to my desk to my
Yeah.
hand to
Yeah.
my mouth
I'm
as we
loading up the
speak.
magazine with
Yeah.
bullets. Yeah, it's this movie could have come out on Redbox. Um,
And you would have hoped that there was a fucking photocopy of the DVD in it, so you didn't actually have to watch
yeah,
it.
so I did.
Someone stole it, and you're
It's
just
just
like,
a burned
yeah,
copy of a U2 album with the
yeah. No,
DVD
it's not
cover
even that.
pasted on
No,
the
it's where
front.
they'll like print
It's just
out
the
like a
just a
paper,
piece of paper. Yeah.
yeah, just to like fool the red. And you're just like, good. I needed this lesson. I needed to pay $3.99 to learn that I should not like shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I
also it
want to.
suffers from very bad, like I said, very bad cinematography. Not as bad as Army of the Dead, but very bad. And it really suffered as a result of that. Like I think that it would have been slightly better, like maybe not enough to make a difference, right? Because it doesn't change the story, but it would
Yeah,
have been slightly less torturous to watch if the cinematography was better.
in the action scenes or like the whole movie.
Honestly, the whole movie. There were
Oh,
just all of the cuts were really bad. And it's like I don't know if they film on location in Japan because most of it takes place inside the house, inside the complex, which is like this old school Japanese house with like a big garden and like it's like a mansion basically, but like it's like a feudal Japan mansion, if you can imagine that.
mhm.
So yeah, so most of it takes place in that sort of location. But even so, the movie just felt really claustrophobic. Like all the shots were like pretty close up, or would cut the heads off. There's no long shots or like wide angles, nothing like that. So yeah, that's also a major flaw of the movie. Anyway, what were you gonna say?
Okay, so one thing that I liked and I thought was funny is like, okay, so discount Ken Watanabe, and the
Yeah,
reason I call him this is because this guy just talks like Ken Watanabe, and this made me realize that like, we've been getting like a lot more like Asian actors on screen and stuff like that because of all these like movements, and some of them are good. Like I do like Ken Watanabe a lot. I think he's pretty good in like most of the movies that he's in. But it made me realize that like the like Asian accent is changing a little bit. Like when we play Valorant and I like make fun of Sage, I always do the traditional like changing the R's into L's.
right.
And when I noticed with the Chinese actors or whatever that sound like Ken Watanabe, it's actually that they changed the R's to W's. And so you get this like way different like accent, and I think it's a lot funnier. And so I wrote a sentence
Oh, wow.
or I wrote a
Here
few
we go.
sentences that I'm gonna say in it so you can hear it. And so we can get canceled and never have to do this shit again.
Yeah, then we don't have to
Yeah.
do anything again.
So this would be they also sound like super mystical, which is like another thing. And also they always sound out of breath. Uh, so like he finds Snake Eyes or whatever, and he says a bunch of stuff, and I like wrote down his whole script because I was like thinking about it, and I'm like, oh man, it actually isn't like as hyperbolic as like I'm gonna make it. But yeah, he's just like, they call you Snake Eyes, and yet you always win. It's like, yeah, so that's like kind of the table setting. So the sentence that I wrote is, the road to recovery is a long one. Your loved ones remember everything about when you romanced that Romanian ringleader. Reflect on this.
Stop it.
Behind only ruin. Forward, by riches. I actually watched another movie, kind
Oh,
of.
you did?
Yeah, so we got to talk about it.
What movie is it?
Okay, so I went on F movies.
Uh,
And I was like, because I was bored and I was like about to go to sleep, and I'm like, I need just something to watch. And I was thinking about watching The Jungle Cruise because it's already on F movies and it's in HD and shit like that. And I'm like, okay, like this won't suck to watch. But I was kind of thinking like maybe I would like to go to the theater and see that and make
what
use of
movie?
the fucking pass that I pay for. Jungle Cruise.
Oh yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm not gonna watch that. So I'm like looking at these other things that are
Is
on
it in
F
HD on F movie?
Yeah, because it's on Disney Plus already.
Oh yeah.
So it's like already on F movies and like good, and you're gonna make me repeat what I say because apparently you don't listen to me on talk. So
No, I was looking at my phone, but
yeah,
honestly, with Jungle Cruise, like I'll still watch it on streaming because I feel like Disney has enough money,
yeah, sure.
and I
I
don't
just
think
have
it's
the,
gonna be that good. I think it's like
it'll
these kind of
probably
movies. They're
be
trying to capture that lightning in a bottle that they got with like Pirates of the Caribbean, and we've talked about this before. Like Pirates of the Caribbean worked not because we liked the ride when we were kids. It worked because like it's a
the
cool
movie's
movie.
actually good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Um.
think this is gonna be that good.
Yeah, I'm not really like enticed by the concept. It's more the fact that it's got The Rock and Emily Blunt in it, and it's like supposed to be an action adventure movie. So it's like, the ingredients are there. Like, let's see how shitty the cake is, Um, and I only am thinking about seeing it in theaters because I have that fucking movie pass shit, and I'm like not going to see enough stuff to like justify having it. So like I need to
Yeah.
catch up on things so that I can justify having paid for it. So that was the reason. So anyway, so I'm looking at all these other things that are on F movies, and I see this movie called Jolt. I don't know if you're on F movies right now, but it's on the top line of movies that have come out recently. A lot of shit, on here is like Netflix movies and stuff like that, and none of it really looks like appealing to me, to anything that I want to see. But I see this Jolt thing, and it's like an Amazon Prime movie. And I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? This is like a movie that's like clearly made for chicks.
It's called Jolt.
Yeah. And
Let me look on F movies to see. Is I have this like superpower where I can tell if a movie is going to be bad just by looking at the poster.
oh yeah, you can tell just by looking at the picture of it that this isn't gonna be good.
Oh no. Yeah. This is
So
on Prime Video.
yeah,
Who is
so
that though? Is that Kate
it's Kate
Mara?
Beckinsale.
Kate Beckinsale. Okay.
Yeah.
She
And
looks good
my
still. Wow.
dude, oh my god, she is fucking gorgeous in this movie. She
You
looks
watched this movie?
so good. I watched an hour of it.
You
We'll
watched
get
an
to that.
hour of this movie?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
We'll get to it.
Are we
Like, I'm
gonna
still
watch it on the
table
channel?
dressing. No, we're not gonna watch it.
Or
It's
we're
not
not gonna
good.
watch it? Okay.
No. Spoiler alert, it's not good. So
Okay.
So I was like looking at it and I'm like, you know what? They're making all these movies for chicks, right? And they're trying to like copy all this other stuff. I'm like looking at this and I'm like, this looks kind of like a John Wick kind of thing, but they're doing the same thing where they're just like, we're going to put a chick in it instead of a dude. And I'm like, you know what? If they keep throwing shit at the wall, like something's going to stick and we're going to like end up missing like a really good movie because we dismissed it because it's like, it's just going to be that trash shit that they just make for girls that ends up being shitty because they don't really give a shit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let me check this out because I don't have anything to do. I'm bored right now. I'm trying to fall asleep. Like, let me just watch this fucking thing. And I don't have to like drag Chris into it or anything like that because like this is like super experimental. I can already tell just by looking at it, it's probably not going to be good. But I'm like, who knows? Who knows? It could be fine. So it's pretty clunky. So it's about Kate Beckinsale, and she plays this girl who has like a rage problem. And she has like the movie justifies it by saying that she has like high levels of cortisol in her blood and it makes her get like really angry and she like can't control it. And because of like the high amounts of cortisol, she's like a little bit stronger and like faster and some other shit than the average person, which I thought they were kind of using to set up kind of like a superhero-y thing, but they don't really like push on that too much. But basically she's just like, she essentially could just beat the shit out of anyone that she comes into contact with. And the movie also doesn't really ever give her, like, it puts her in situation. It's kind of like the G.I. Joe scene where, like, it's like nobody in the Yakuza has a gun that's here. When this guy, like, knocks the gun, he, like, he just, like, shoots the ground, and then him and his friends start, like, fist fighting everyone. And it's like nobody else has a gun to just put these two guys down so you can get back to the fish.
Yeah.
Nobody. This movie's a lot like that, where it's like she just starts fighting a bunch of people, and you're like, well, if anybody here had a gun, they would just kill her. And it's like, oh, but nobody has a gun.
Everybody, that fish tracking enterprise.
She's literally on, like, the home turf of a gangster, but nobody here has guns. Okay, so she's just gonna beat everyone up. Okay, it's fine. She's just gonna beat everyone up because no one has guns. It's fine. I just wanted to know, but apparently nobody has any guns to stop her, so therefore her just beating the shit out of everyone is totally fine within the bounds of the movie. So there's a lot of stuff like that. So anyways, she wears this vest. That, like, has all these electrodes that, like, covers her body. And whenever she starts to get, like, really angry, she, like, shocks herself to, like, pull her out of it. And the movie has a lot of, like,
is this like
kind of, yeah, I guess so. I guess that's more what it's like. It's like Crank / John Wick. So, and there's a lot of scenes of, like, graphic violence in the movie where it's like her thinking about, like, what she would do to the people, and, like, the movie doesn't cut, so it'll be like you'll see her, like, getting angry, and then it'll show her, like, killing them, and then it'll, like, snap back to her, like, actually, like, getting angry and showing you that she's, like, thinking about that, and then she'll, like, jolt herself. So it does a lot of that. So it has a lot of, like, gratuitous violence in it, but that doesn't actually, like, happen. So anyway, she ends up, like, her psychiatrist is Stanley Tucci, and he's like, you should go on a date with this guy that you've, like, she goes on a date with this guy. She doesn't want to go. It's very, like, clunky how the movie sets it up too. It's like one of those things where it's like, God, there's a lot of ways that you could have written this that aren't, like, so fucking cringe and, like, don't make any sense, but you went with this one, and it's like, okay. So she's like, she shows up to the date just to tell the guy that, like, I'm not gonna have dinner with you actually because, reasons. She can't tell him that she'll, like, kill everyone in the restaurant because she doesn't like the way that they, like, chew their food or something like that. So she's, like, gonna leave, and then this waitress comes out and is like, well, if you leave, he has to leave because, like, we need the table. So they end up having a date, and she likes him, and then she tells her psychiatrist, and he's like, well, you should, like, get into a relationship because I think that will help your condition. So she reluctantly, like, goes on a second date with him, and she, like, falls.
Psychological advice.
Yeah, whatever.
Like, this fucking chronic condition that you're going through, you should bring another person into that.
Yeah.
Into that equation.
So they end up going on a second date, and they have a great time, and she, like, falls head over heels with them, and it's pretty sappy. And he, like, buys her a camera, like, in between her falling asleep after they had sex and him, like, and her, like, waking up, like, in the afternoon to him, like, cook. So he, like, went out.
Amazon delivers fast.
Yeah, he went out and bought her a camera and then came back and cooked her breakfast, like, all before she woke up. It was really weird.
He's a dream guy.
Yeah, it's Jai Courtney, by the way.
It's
weird
Jai
choice.
Courtney.
Yeah, weird choice for love
interest.
interest.
Like, I don't know if he just does bad movies or if he's a bad actor. We're at that point. Like, I heard he's really good. I think he can be good, but, like, I can't think of a good movie that he's in.
He's kind of like he's an accountant in this, and he's kind of like a sweet guy, and he's just like he's like romantically, like, romancing her in the beginning, and he's, like, super understanding and emotionally available, and the few moments that he's in the movie, he's, like, great. And I was just sitting there thinking, like, man, I don't know if you would choose Jai Courtney to be the romantic interest in your movie because, like, he's not super hunky. And then I'm like, I kind of am like look like Jai Courtney. So I'm like, thanks, inner ego. You just shoot your fucking self down. I'm like, I have all those similar, like, I'm like, he doesn't have, like, a super deep voice or anything like that. And he's, like, passable, but, like, not super hunky or anything like that. And I'm like, great, cool. Anyways.
He's a big dude, right?
He's pretty built. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Notice how I didn't include that part in my description.
Yeah, that was.
I'm self-aware.
That's a big deal. It's a big part
yeah,
of it.
sure. It doesn't really, like, come into he doesn't, like, fucking fight anyway. He gets murdered right away. And that's her, like, yeah, that's, like, her motivation. Is she's like, she's like, fuck, I found this guy that was like making me forget about my rage issues, and I was like really in love with him, and I didn't think it was going to pan out the way that it did, but it was. And then she finds out that he gets murdered, and so then she goes on like a revenge journey to like find who killed him.
Okay.
And it's just really dumb from there. Just a lot of kind of like, there's like one part where she like walks into a police station. She call because like the police investigator, because she was like one of the last persons that he was seen with. So they like investigate her, and she like calls them in a later scene and is like, oh, I have some information regarding like the last person he was with. So I want to like tell you guys. And they're like, okay, we'll be right over. And they like leave the police station. And as they're leaving the police station, she like sneaks in and she gets into the evidence room and steals his phone. And I'm just like, that wouldn't happen. You know, it's like impossible to sneak into a fucking police station. Like that's just
but that happens
and,
a lot of movies where they get into the evidence room.
I mean, she literally like walks into the police station. Nobody asks her who she is. She goes over to a police officer's desk, picks a key card up, and then uses the key card to enter the evidence room.
Yeah.
And like nobody stops her. And she's like wearing like civilian clothes and shit. And it's just like, okay. And then the reason that she does it is so she can get his driver's license so that she can find out where he lives so that she can go to his house and like look for clues. And it's like, the movie could have just made it so that he told her where she lived, or like she was supposed to go over to dinner to his house the night he got killed. So I don't know. It's just one of those. It's just like, dude, just don't. Why do you guys just make shit? Like, why does nobody like read these scripts? I saw your messages, by the way, so I'll go quick. So, anyways,
well, okay. So the Supreme Gentleman says goes on a revenge-fueled rampage to find the killer, while the cops pursue her as their chief suspect. Gee, never saw that plot before.
Yeah, it's not really the plot that's bad. It's because like I'm okay like if the plot is like simple, but you have to do like interesting things like within it. It's fine if you want to like set up, you know, flimsy motivation to like go on a revenge spree. Like I'm okay with that. That's okay with me. And then it's like, oh, you know, one of the police, remember that trans person that's in Honorable Woman or whatever, the
one that was a barista.
Yeah, she's like one of the cops, and then the other cop, and like, you know, then this is another thing that's like really distracting about the movie. I don't know. This is one of the things
about that shit.
And she's like super aggressive, and he's like not he's like the good cop, and she's like the bad cop. And it's like one of those things about the movie that's like really distracting, because you know that like nobody writes that way. Nobody's like, oh, we're gonna write this like over the top, super insulting and arrogant cop, and it's a woman, and her partner is gonna be like this simp guy. It's like that no one ever writes that way. That's some shit that gets like mandated by like Amazon, you know. So that's like really distracting throughout the whole movie. But anyways, I got the point where I turned it off was so how does she find out the name of this guy? She okay, so like something happens and she finds out this like gangster that the accountant guy was her boyfriend was working for. So she goes to his place. These guys are like having, it's like a cage fight thing again, where they're just fighting in like a big circle and people are like cheering them on. And she like walks in and she like interrupts them and everyone just stops. And like also they just like let her in without an invitation or anything like that. Like it's just super. The movie's like, we're just not gonna. They're just like, just watch the movie.
Yeah,
they're like, he gets in.
Movies like this, you get pretty far in where they're just like, now you have to accept everything because you're already an hour in. It's
so it's like she knows
cost fallacy at this.
Yeah,
point.
it's like oh well, the last place this guy's cell phone came from is this abandoned building. So she goes to the abandoned building, and of course there's like an illegal party being held there, and of course because she showed up, they just let her in. And then she walks into the middle of the fight, and then she's like, "Stop it." And then to get the attention of the head honcho guy, and then she's like, "Oh, I need to know about bury the accountant and like why he's dead. And the head honcho is like, okay, but you have to fight like these 3 guys. And he's like, but you have to fight them all at once. And of course she just like beats the shit out of all of them.
Does he really say that?
Yes.
That's really silly.
Yeah, he's like, you have to fight them. And he's like, not one at a time. He's like, you have to fight them all at once. And she's like, I like a man who challenges.
Why does that have to be a line in the movie?
I don't know, because I guess
it's
like I would assume that like he's gonna sick all of them on her at once.
Yeah, he should just snap his fingers and they all attack her. Like,
yeah,
you have to be like, I'm gonna snap my fingers now.
Yeah,
and these 3 guys are gonna attack you all at once.
So she beats the shit out of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he like tells everyone to leave, and then he is like, okay, I'm gonna talk to you, and he like brings her into a limo and is like, actually, I'm just gonna kill you. And she says something about like, oh, I hate it when creepy old men underestimate women. And so she completely like subverts the whole scene and like doesn't get killed. And then he's like tied up to like the hood of his car later with like jumper cables on his balls. So so then she gets the next guy in the chain that she has to like kill from this guy. So he's like, oh, you got to go find something or other. And she's like, okay. And he's like some like super connected billionaire recluse that like lives in this tower. And it's like one of those characters that like the cops know that he's like in a bunch of illegal shit, but like they've never been able to prove it. He's like one of those guys. He's like Falcone or something like that, like Batman, something like a lot, but like way more rich.
So the accountant guy was one of those guys, or
the accountant was working for the accountant was working for the head honcho, and the head honcho was working for the billionaire.
Oh, okay.
So she's like going up the chain.
Okay.
So she walks up to the tower of the billionaire and is basically like, I'm here to see this guy, let me the fuck in. And this guy like comes out of the shadows and is like intrigued by her and is like, I'll take you to go see him. And then they're riding into an elevator and then that guy knocks her out. And then she wakes up in a room and he's like taking her vest off. And by the way, this rage thing like never really ever comes into play at this point, because at this point she's just beating the shit out of everyone with this like super strength that they kind of like ascribe to her in the beginning of the movie. Nothing has to do with like her rage tick anymore. She's just full blown like, I'm just murdering everyone kind of. So anyways, he's got her like strapped in this chair, which by the way, the movie showed in the beginning that she's like really good at getting out of that stuff. She's like super strong, so she can kind of just get out of restraints, but she doesn't in this one. And so anyways, the guy is like, I'm going to keep your vest. I'm going to keep an eye on you. But if you don't leave here now without any fuss, I'm going to kill you. And she's like, okay. And then she leaves. And then we get the scene where that guy goes to the shadowy billionaire guy. And he's like, we just had an unexpected visitor. What do you want me to do with her? And he's like, she's an unexplainable she's an unaccounted for variable. I don't like unaccounted for variables. Deal with her. And it's like, but you let her go. You let her go before talking to this guy. And also, like, why would you let her go? Like, before talking to him. And she's here for some reason, and you guys just killed someone like recently. It's like, just kill. You had her in the basement of the building in a chair. And that's when I just turned the movie off, because I'm like, this movie's just fucking dumb. Like, I was hoping that we were gonna get, I was like pretty checked out of it, but I was like, well, maybe something cool will happen. It's like I'm still trying to like fall asleep at this point, and it's like it is boring me. So like I'm getting there, But it's like then when it got to that, I'm like, so now you're gonna have to go send some guys to kill her, and she's gonna kill them, and then she's gonna have to come back, and it's just gonna be like a big like loop of this one part of the movie. And I'm like, this is just fucking dumb. And I think I turned it off at like 57 minutes, and it's like an hour and a half. It's like 91 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
This one's a big stinker. It was a big strikeout. It's just a proof again that these streaming movies are just making, or these streaming services are just making like whatever.
Yeah.
Just shit for people to have in the background while they look at their phones.
I'm telling you, that's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's what it is.
It's just a movie made so you can turn it on while you look at your phone.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
what
once it's over, you're like, oh, that was pretty good.
That's exactly what this was. And you know what? The best part about it was that Kate Beckinsdale is smoking hot, and she's the main character of the movie, and she's talking with a British accent, which I imagine is her original accent.
I'm pretty sure she does have a British accent, yeah.
Yeah, and oh man, she's super fucking dreamy in this movie. Like, and she's like in her 50s, and she looks so good. so good, but the movie's just really bad. So yeah, didn't finish it. Don't plan on finishing it. Didn't think it was gonna be good. Ended up not being good.
Yeah.
Probably won't conclude in any kind of satisfactory way because I mean, like, there might be a reveal at the end where like the guy is alive. I'm like actually skimming towards the end now to see if that's the case.
Are you skimming it? I
But
mean,
I don't think that that's gonna be the case. No, it doesn't look like it.
yeah, I don't see that coming from. If all this shit's in the evidence locker, then
Yeah, he seemed pretty dead. And yeah, you know, I was hoping to be proven wrong. You know, I wanted to. I was trying to be open minded about. It's like this movie's clearly not made for me. But you know, like most movies that are made for men doesn't mean that they can't just be enjoyed by a person that likes movies. You know what I mean? I'd say that like a lot of movies that are good, they're like slanted towards men because they're just like, you know, they're usually like action movies or they're kind of like darker stories or something like that. You know, something of that nature.
I want to say, and I don't know if this is the case, but maybe it's just that more men watch movies than.
Oh, it is. It is for sure, and that has something to do with it. But like, you know, it's like I would say that like the Hateful Eight is, or like even Pulp Fiction. Like Pulp Fiction is just a really good movie. You don't have to have a dick to like it.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of women that like Pulp Fiction.
I mean, in the
So
same way, Kill Bill is a good movie that like.
yeah. So, but like with Pulp
woman,
Fiction,
so.
like if you saw like previews or something for it, you'd be like, that's probably something that's geared towards like male audiences.
Yeah, probably.
But then just upon watching it, you're just like, this is just a really fucking good movie, and it doesn't matter what's between your legs for you to like it. So, you know, it's like, okay, so these things that are being like marketed like clearly for women, I'm like, I'm not going to let that, you know, skew my bias so much that I couldn't go into this thinking like this could probably just be good on its own merit. I would even say like that movie that came out recently about the girl that took advantage of old people. I love a lot or I care a lot or something.
Care a lot.
Yeah. It's like that movie was also, it started out really good. It just got really shitty like somewhere in the like after the second act. Well, like right before the second act finished, it got terrible. But it was like one of those movies. It's like this movie kind of looks like it's like geared more towards women, and then it started and the first act was good, and then like half of the second act was good, and then it got like it turned into just schlock, and ended up being like shitty. But that's my point. I guess is like that like just because these things seem to be like slanted towards women doesn't mean they can't be good. Now it depends on how much, because sometimes they veer off that path and then they do start pandering super hard. And maybe it isn't pandering. Like I feel like in I Care a Lot, it started pandering towards like women because the main character all of a sudden became like a fucking superhero.
Right.
And it just became this like female driven like revenge
like
plot.
All of a sudden, like from the beginning of the movie, she's like the main character and you're supposed to be rooting for her, but she does like so much terrible shit.
No, I didn't get the impression in the beginning that we were supposed to be rooting for her. I got the impression that she was just like a shitty person that happened to be a woman, and that she was like, it was kind of like an anti-hero movie, or like I guess anti-hero isn't like the right word, but it's like the protagonist is not like a good person. Most of the movies that seem to be geared towards women seem to be more interested in like pandering to them rather than actually giving them something like competent. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you know, them being entertained by them is subjective, but like, I don't really think that I think a lot of the ways that they try and entertain them is superficial. And like, you can look at like something more mainstream, like the Star Wars sequel trilogy, where like Rey is a girl, but she's not really developed past that, right? It's like, look at this woman that's in this movie, and then like we just made her awesome because girls don't normally go to the movies and get to see awesome female characters, so we're just gonna like make her awesome. And it's like, oh well, that's not why characters are usually considered as awesome. It's usually because they like achieve something and then we relate to them as the audience. And so that's where it's like, yeah, they're just pandering to, they're just like vagina pander, and it's like, yeah.
It's like comedians too,
But
female
it,
comedians.
yeah, and it kind of just stops there. So yeah, but overall, Jolt was not this movie. It was not the diamond in the rough that I was hoping that it would be. It was basically
If you're
just
looking for a
garbage.
diamond in the rough, and we talk about this movie often, it's Atomic Blonde. That movie is really good,
Oh
and it
yeah,
has
yeah,
like
dude.
a
That I don't
strong
think we haven't
female
talked about that a lot,
protagonist.
but that movie, yeah, that movie is actually fucking insanely good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a really cool
like
spy movie. It has all the twists and turns that you expect, but also like a romance kind of storyline for the main character. And she kicks a lot of ass, and you believe it because she's like really gritty and tough, and she's using like
yeah,
weapons and everything. Like the choreography looks really real. I think
hmm
I love the soundtrack because it's all like in the '80s. The setting is
yeah.
cool. It's like right before the Berlin
It's like
Wall is about
80s
to go down.
Berlin.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
late
And
'80s.
it's like a movie that actually utilizes the fact that it's in the 80s good and not just so that
Right.
it can have a cool soundtrack.
Right. Yeah.
Um yeah, no, Atomic Blonde is very good. I would actually just go so as far to say like Charlize Theron's movies are typically very good in general. Like she seems to have a good knack for sussing out scripts. Like sometimes I see these movies with the like, like Kate Beckinsale was in this one, and it's like, you it's probably like I don't think that they're just like, oh, it's a movie that's being made for women and it's like an action movie, so like let me just no, they get to read the script, dude. They get to read the script before they take the part.
Right.
And so it's not like they just like sign on to something and it just happens to be bad. Like they
I
should
think
have
some
like
of them
full,
do.
maybe, but I would
Yeah,
say that
because
like
like
more often than not,
dude,
they have full awareness to like suss
I
out the
don't know.
script and like
Sometimes when they make a movie and it has like a lot of studio intervention, it's like they've already signed on. They have to go through with the movie, and now the script at the end isn't the same as the script that they started with, because they keep like changing it and like reshooting it and shit. And then the editing makes a big difference. Like, dude, editing can make one movie into a completely different movie.
for sure. Um, Yeah, but I mean, like, yeah, unless there are like massive iterations made to the script, like, I think that you can most of the time see that the movie's gonna not be super good. Um, I'm like thinking about like some of the dialogue in this one and just like the way that the scenes are set up and like if it's like, interior warehouse, protagonist walks into gangster's hideout with no invitation, and immediately breaks up an illegal cage match to get the attention of the gang. It's got to be written in some way. It's got to be written like that to where like like the scene doesn't just accidentally get shot. It's completely different from the script, Like that's what I'm saying. So basically, I don't know what Charlize Theron is doing, but I rarely see her in stuff that like completely sucks ass. Even the one Fast and Furious movie that she was in was good. Like not good, like
She was good in
good.
it.
She was good
I
in it.
wouldn't say
Yeah,
the
and
movie
like
was
her,
good, but
yeah, her character was good in it. Like her hacker character, and did some cool things and had a bit of an edge to her and had like some breathing room for her to actually like inject character into the character as an actress. So like I said, I don't know if like she's just been in the game long enough that she has like a good eye for like scripts or whatever, but she doesn't seem to pick like garbage to act in. And that was like another thing with Kate Beckinsale. Like Kate Beckinsale really got kind of like lost to. Kate Beckinsale reminds me a lot of Mila Jovovich, who I won't say that like Mila Jovovich was ever anything special, because like all I really knew her from before she got into Resident Evil was Fifth Element, and like that acting role didn't really take like a lot of chops, let's say.
yeah, I
That
mean, I
character is
don't
like
think she's
pretty
been
one
in really
dimensional.
any movie where
Well, that's what I'm getting to is like once she did Fifth Element, she kind of got sucked into Resident Evil, and then she never did anything else. And same thing kind of happened with Kate Beckinsale, where she got sucked into Underworld and
Underworld.
then
Yeah,
like never really did anything after that. Like I feel like she did a couple like obscure things, but I don't really feel like it was anything that was ever like, oh, you're gonna break out of this trap that like Underworld seems to have like put you in. And maybe that's like maybe that's just like some typecasting shit or whatever. So I didn't go into
yeah,
this with like high
testament
hopes.
to
Yeah,
the
I didn't
craft
go
of
into
her. acting, but I mean, she's collecting those underworld paychecks.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like I didn't go into this with like high hopes that it was Kate Beckinsdale because I'm like, she kind of only does Underworld and like doesn't really do anything. But I was like, maybe this will be the one that like gets her back on some kind of track where she can do like other things. But no, this was like really hacky and shitty, and I feel like we've talked about it too much already.
Definitely.
For something that I didn't even finish it. I didn't even finish it.
We talked about it for longer than you watched of it. If you watched it for an hour, we probably talked about it for longer than that.
Yeah, probably. So
I cannot. Okay, listen. I can't remember how to get Blurp back into the voice channel.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, this is what our show is missing.
Yeah, this is the key element. That's what we're getting 8 views per episode.
Hey.
Averaging. It's not bad.
It's just you clicking on the episode to check if the views have gone up, and it adds a view to it. Yeah, I know.
Sometimes I like to watch it because it makes me laugh. Like I think some of the jokes that we say are still funny, like the second or third time.
Yeah.
So I think.
So do you want me to talk about the Green Knight? Is this something you're interested in seeing? I don't necessarily want to like spoil it.
I'll probably forget about it completely, so I don't mind if you spoil it.
Okay. Well, I'll talk about it the way I want to talk about it, I guess. So, okay, so once I started watching it, it started to come back to me like what I read on Reddit that made me take interest. And I know I told you this on Discord already, but I'll repeat it. So, first things first, like when the movie started, it ended up being an A24 movie. Now A24 is a studio. They've done movies like Midsummer.
They've done some cool stuff, yeah.
And Parasite. Yeah, they've done some cool stuff. So that was like one of the things that I saw on Reddit. It was like A24 is making this. It's like a medieval fairy tale / folklore story turned into a movie, or like adapted into a movie. And Alicia Vikander was in it, who's the girl from Ex Machina.
Yeah.
She also, unfortunately, was the new Lara Croft in the new Tomb Raider movie, which is awful. But she's good at Ex. Yeah, it's not very good, but she's good at Ex Machina, and yeah. So I was like, okay, I'll take a gamble on this.
Yeah,
like,
I like her in The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah. So, because it's like if I don't like go see these like more obscure movies, it's like I'm just gonna end up going seeing like Jungle Cruise or what was the other fucking one that my friend wanted to see, Old, which I'm glad that we ended up seeing this rather than Old.
I heard that one was really bad.
I didn't really want to see it. I mean, I'm not really interested in it, but like he wanted to go, so I was willing to just go to the movies with him. But we ended up seeing this instead. So, but yeah, these are the kind of things that like when I'm on Reddit and like things start getting reported about movies that are in like, they're either in like pre-production or like post-production, and people are starting, they'll be like, oh, first images from this movie, and it'll be like, this is a movie from A24 and it's like set in medieval times and it's got like these actors in it. And I'll see shit like that and I'll just be like, that's either something I'm probably going to be interested in or it's something that I'm not. And so I just saw this one and it ticked enough boxes and I'm like, I'll probably go check that out when it comes out.
Yeah.
So that's what got me in the theater.
Okay.
So I don't really want to like spoil it or anything like that. So I will just say that like, I left the movie like not knowing how to feel about it. Which I guess you could construe as negative, but there were a lot of really good things about this movie. Like I will first say that like A24 movies have like a very distinct sound design to them. They do a lot of like really cool like stuff with music that really like accentuates all the scenes and like sets a really cool mood. And the music will be like different from like scene to scene, but it has like a kind of like a consistent theme, if that makes any kind of sense.
Yeah.
So like Yeah, because like this movie used music very much in the same way that kind of like Midsummer used music.
Okay.
And the costumes were really cool, and I liked the acting, and some of the cinematography was like really good. I will say, like, overall, this movie's like really gloomy. It's set in like medieval times, so it's set in like England,
Like
and
right?
yeah, and it's like very muted and very like the skies are always gray, and most of the land is kind of like the movie also takes place around Christmas, so it's usually during like winter, and not like snowy winter, but just like everything is kind of like dead or in the process of dying, in terms of like the landscape and things like that. There's like a couple scenes that are really nice and green when they're in like the forest and stuff like that, but otherwise it's kind of like desolate fields. Everything's pretty kind of like barren, and so a lot of the colors are like very muted.
Okay.
And it's got kind of like a dark vibe to it and stuff like that. So it does kind of like work, but like the movie's also very like, it's very like story and character driven. So there's not a lot of action or like things that are like happening on screen. It's a lot of people like talking to each other, and kind of like the guy's like traveling a lot. And so it's kind of a lot of like visual stuff happening.
Yeah, that's what
So
movies are usually.
yeah, so it's a little slow, and there's times where it's like, oh man, the fucking scene and the scenery has been like the same, and it's all just this muted and like dank, and that can get like a little bit boring, but it's not like a huge like detriment, but it is like something that like, I noticed like a couple times where I was like, it'd be nice if they got into a scene where like some colors would pop, because otherwise it's very muted. And
Is there like magic and shit? And
there's like a little bit,
based
yeah.
on like King Arthur.
Yeah, there's a little bit. It's not really like explained in any kind of way, which is like another thing. So like the whole movie, I was like confused but interested is how I would describe it. Like I was like, okay, some things are happening. They're not like really explaining all of it, which I don't mind. You know, I don't mind there being like a little bit of like mystery to kind of like what's going on. But I want to be slowly being fed clues so that I can kind of be trying to figure out like what's going on in my head. And then that way, when the thing like gets revealed at the end, I can kind of gauge like where I was. And this is kind of why I was like, I didn't know what to feel at the end of the movie. Is like I never really feel like the movie caught me up to speed, and I didn't really like understand the like ending. Like when they showed what happened at the end of the movie, I was like, oh shit. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I want to like this movie because like the beginning is really strong. I felt like because I didn't really feel like there was like a very distinct point in the movie where I was like, okay, they're introducing too many questions and they're not giving me enough answers. You know what I mean? It's like this movie is all give me problems and not give me answers, and like I'm getting overloaded with problems and I'm getting under. You know, I'm not getting any answers at all, basically. And there was like a peak in the movie that I would say is about, I think the movie's like 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. And I want to say at like the hour and 30 mark, maybe like the hour and 45-minute mark, just based on like kind of like internally what I was judging, that's the point I was like, okay, I'm so fucking confused and they're really not giving me anything to work with now. And now I'm just watching scenes to try and to just get to the end of the movie, because hopefully the end will explain it.
And it does.
And well, then the movie ends, and it was just like, oh shit! Like they kind of like pointed to this thing, this like plot device, and I was like, I was not really paying enough attention to like that part of the movie, and so now I feel like I'd have to watch it again with knowing that thing in mind so I can pay attention to that thing's relevance like throughout the story. because it's not really. I feel like when the thing is introduced in the movie, that like because it's like an item that the character gets, and when it's introduced in the movie, the movie doesn't make like a really big deal about it to tell you like, oh, this is a really big plot device, and this is going to be something that's like used and is going to kind of like point you in the direction of the conflict resolution. And so I feel like I didn't figure that out till like the end of the movie when it was like, oh, is that thing? You should have been paying attention to that thing. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like, you didn't really do a good job, like, making that thing like a very like obvious thing. So I feel like I'd have to rewatch it again and like pay attention more to that specific element of the movie and see if like that made me feel any different once it like concluded. Because like there were a lot, like I said, there were a lot of strong things about this movie in terms of like the music and the cinematography and the acting, and I liked kind of like where the plot seemed to be going. I was like interested in seeing it get resolved, and like even the things that they were kind of like throwing at us that were confusing were still like interesting and intriguing. But it was just like when everything kind of got like wrapped up at the end, I was just like, oh, I just like didn't really know how to feel about it. And so that's kind of like my shorthand review without like explicitly like spoiling anything. And I think even if I did try to spoil it, it'd be too difficult to even like keep track of. So I'm not gonna bother. So yeah, I kind of feel like I have to see it again. I think I'll probably wait till it gets on F movies and then I'll watch it again because I'm not gonna go to the theater to see it again.
Did you think it was worth your money?
Well, like, yeah, I'm still not like even on board with using that as a.
I know you say that every fucking time.
Yeah, no, because I don't. Because I don't think
money,
it's good. No, because I don't think it's a good metric.
Okay, well,
because it's like, dude, did I want to go to the movies and see a movie? Yeah, and I saw
you
this.
Think it's not a good metric because you didn't pay for that movie specifically. You paid for a monthly subscription.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that that's like, because I don't really think about that. Like, but like when you ask it to me, the way that you ask it, the way that you're framing it, I don't even think about the fact that I have the fucking subscription service. Because it's like you see things that you're interested in, or you read about them that you're interested in, and then you go see it. And like going to the movies is like an experience. I don't think you should see it as like a transaction. It's like, it's like when I go bowling and I bowl a fucking bad game, I don't think that was like a waste of my money because like I still spend money to go to a bowling alley and have a good time and like partake in that experience. So like by going into a movie theater and sitting in the chair and watching a movie on a gigantic screen, you're already technically getting your money's worth. That's the whole reason that you went to the movie. So that's why I don't think it's like a really good metric. I think that it's a worse metric than just saying like, did you like it or did you not like it?
Did you like it or did you not like it?
I feel like I'm neutral. And that's a little bit tinged with bias because, like I said, this movie had like so many things that I normally like from like that genre that I feel like I should have liked it, but at the same time, I was a little bit unsatisfied with how it ended and how I felt. So I don't normally feel this way when I leave movies. Like I don't normally feel like, man, I really need to see that. I guess I kind of felt like that way with Tenet, where I was like, fuck, I feel like I'd have to see that again before I could really definitively say whether I liked it or didn't like it. Because there's so many things about Tenet that are like really cool and in that Christopher Nolan like wheelhouse of like high concept sci-fi. But the concept was also like so difficult to grasp and had so many like weird elements that like I didn't think were going to be part of the movie that were like difficult to absorb on a first watch when you're taking it in all at once for the first time. You know what I mean? I feel like when you watch Tenet for a second time, you're going in with like a basis of knowledge of kind of like how things work, and you can pay more attention in the scenes to try and fill in the gaps of like where the mechanics kind of all come together and see whether or not you actually think that the premise that he's executing on is satisfactory or not. And that's kind of how I felt with this one. It's like I'd have to go back and watch it again now that I kind of know, I can kind of see like the whole picture and see whether or not all the elements that were being introduced filled in the gaps kind of sufficiently. So I guess like a way to say it is like, if you were really conscious about like spending money on this, I would say probably wait till it comes in a form that you can watch it multiple times. So like if you are going to spend money on it, spend it on like a rental or spend it on like a subscription service if it goes to one or something like that, so that when you watch it, you could then watch it again right after, because it's just like, it's very confusing. Because otherwise, if you see this in theater, you're going to have to either like stick around and sneak into another showing of it, or you're going to have to like go on a different date and pay for it to see it again. Which I would say would probably not be something that is not within the normal purview of like how we, of most movies. Most movies you can see it once and you know whether or not, So I'd say that this one is unique in that it falls into that, like, I don't fucking know. There are certain movies that are like that. Like, my friend and I were kind of talking about this. Like, I don't know if this is the greatest example, but I feel like Prometheus is kind of one of those movies where when you see it, it's like, oh, I thought I was going to get this like alien movie, and I ended up getting this really strange, like, mythology movie with a lot of like weird elements, and it was so many things. Like there was like, plot lines about like artificial intelligence and like bioweapons and like genocide and like some other weird shit
like
and themes.
Creators of humanity and
it's like it's so far off from like what you kind of thought you were gonna get when you went to see it. So it's kind of like, fuck, I feel like I'd have to see it again now that I like know all the pieces that are on the board, and now I can watch like more intuitively how they all move. That's so yeah, I would say if you're like a fan of like A24 movies, it definitely like follows their kind of criteria, where it's very like moody and atmospheric, and the music really like drives a lot of like the emotion in the scenes and stuff like that, and is used in like very creepy kind of way. This movie is definitely more on like the not like horror, but it's more of like kind of like a, I don't know, atmospheric thriller / mystery, something kind of like in that realm. It's like psychological in some ways.
Yeah.
It's one of the more like obscure. It's one of the more because like I didn't know that it even related to King Arthur. Like I ended up reading like the Wikipedia synopsis of it later, and it said that this was based on like an Arthurian legend, and so I think it's one of the more like obscure ones. And I will say that like I like the lesson that they were trying to tell with this movie. I just feel, based on my first viewing, it was done a little clunky. And I don't know if that's like part of me thinks that like the movie could have been longer, and maybe was in like a different cut. But then like the studio, it's like one of those things where like they have to get it under a certain runtime or something like that. And it's like, I don't know if we can release this like fucking slow, dramatic, horror-ish, psychological like medieval movie and have it be like 3 hours. I think this movie probably would have benefited from being like 3 hours. And I also think it probably would have benefited if it had subtitles. Not because they were speaking foreign, but they did have like English accents.
Like really heavy accents.
Not really heavy, but they were talking in like old English. Like they said "the" a lot, and their dialect wasn't like ours. It wasn't like common English.
Do you think they should like have translated it to like modern English?
No, because I thought that it made it feel more like a period piece, which I thought was like a good element to it. But there was
like subtitles that translated it to modern English.
No, not necessarily. Like I think like because there was just a part where Alicia Vikander like gave like kind of like a long monologue, and it was just difficult to keep track of all the things that she was saying because she was kind of talking like symbologically or she was talking in symbols.
Metaphors.
Symbolically. She was talking very like symbolically. Like she was saying things, but in like it's like no one's ever had this conversation ever before in the world. And like for whatever reason, you're saying all these words now. And it's like it was hard to keep track of like because she's saying things.
That's what I feel like this whole review has been. Like I need to watch this movie.
Yeah, you need to watch it to say it. Yeah, like there was like one part where she was like saying a bunch of things and like all the words were like plain English, but you were also kind of trying to decipher the message that she was giving at the same time, you know? And I felt like my brain couldn't keep up with like how hard it was to decipher it and how quick she was saying it. And so I kind of got like lost a little bit in it. And I don't know how super important it was, but I feel like it was probably important. It was in the fucking movie and it was kind of a monologue. So it's like there was probably something in there that had I seen it or heard it appropriately, probably would have helped me a little bit more with like the conclusion of the movie. So I would like to see it again. Like I'm looking forward to when it comes out online because then I can watch it again and I can watch it with subtitles.
Yeah.
So yeah, like my impression is like I want to like this movie. It has so much going for it. Like in the beginning, especially, it's like really strong and has just like a lot of cool shit. And I just like the setting and I like the way that they filmed things and I like the way that the characters acted and I like the overall like theme that it was going for it, but I just got like a little bit lost at the end and I don't think it's like unsalvageable. I think if I saw it another time with what I know now from the first viewing, that I'd be able to like extract more satisfaction from the ending. But I also wouldn't be beyond saying that like if I watched it again and felt the same way, I would be willing to say that this movie actually isn't that good. Because it's like if I feel the same way twice, I would be pretty confident in saying like, yeah, this is just like it's not good for whatever reason. Like maybe it needed to be longer, maybe there's deleted scenes or whatever. Because like there were like some parts where I felt like it was moving kind of fast at the end. Where I felt like it was just kind of like introducing stuff, and I felt like, man, like this needs a little bit of breathing room. Maybe there was like a little bit more that was cut where it could have been slower. Cause like I feel like the beginning like moved really, really slowly. It was like it had like a lot of buildup. And I felt like that was all really warranted because it was kind of like setting the tone and the atmosphere and all this stuff. But at the end it started feeling like kind of fast. So I felt like maybe they did make some edits and some cuts just to get it to a certain runtime. Like the pace of the end of the movie felt a little off with the pace of the beginning of the movie. So I'm curious about that. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that was kind of the instinct that I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the consensus on The Green Knight is watch it twice. Unless you don't like it the first time, then it's not good. But if you do like it the first time, but you still don't get it, you should watch it the second time.
I'd say
to
if
be
you
sure
like
whether you like it or not.
I would say if you like arts, like more artsier stuff. You know, if you like the stuff that A24 makes and you like that like more artsy stuff and you want to go see something that because like all the stuff that's in theaters right now is like it's like Black Widow and Jungle Cruise and Snake Eyes. You know, it's all this like AAA corporate mainstream like action schlock. You know, so if you want to go see something that's a little bit more like low key and you like taking risks on those kind of things, then go see this because there is a lot of stuff that like will probably appeal to like that side of like film goer.
Yeah.
if you're like one of those people, there will be a lot of things that like you'll like about this, but like whether you like it as an overall movie will be like hard to say. It'll be whether or not you caught on to like what the movie's trying to get you to catch on to. Because I'm getting kind of dumb, and so I don't always catch on to shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Yeah. No, you need to play the Call of Duty one. This like go next time.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Yeah, that's how I felt about this when I saw it. So yeah.
Oh my god! Wow! Oh my god!
Okay, so that's the Green Knight. I'll come back and I'll have my clapback review, and then you'll be able to see. I'll know.
Your
I'll know
what
if I
review?
like it after my clapback review. My review that acts as a clapback to your review.
Oh, okay.
So I watched this fucking movie. Yeah, I mean, it's probably better than Snake Eyes. So.
Probably.
Although, I mean, did Snake Eyes have Baroness in it? Or, I'm sorry, did Green Knight have Baroness in it? I don't think so.
No, but it had Alicia Vikander in it with short hair, and she was cute.
I'm looking at IMDb pictures right now. I'll get back to you on that.
It's
It's got great reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, though, so it's like 89% fresh.
Yeah, I never know whether to trust Rotten Tomatoes or not. But
I mean, I take into account like the critic scores and the audience scores, and I usually tend to trust the audience scores more than the critic score. It depends on what kind of movie it is.
yeah,
Like, so I've noticed that like any big Hollywood movie that aims to like push a message will have really great critic scores, and the audience scores are usually not great. And then any movie that's
because
just
the
like
critics
really,
were paid off.
yeah, exactly. And any movie that's just like really fucking stupid, but like a lot of people like it, like it'll have great audience scores. Like Army of the Dead, right? Didn't that have like a pretty good audience score? Let me look
I have
that
no
one up.
idea.
But yeah, it'll have like great audience scores, and then it'll have like really bad critics scores. So really, it's not about like one score or the other; it's the disparity between the two.
Makes
That kind of
sense.
gives me an idea of where
Yeah.
it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I mean like my intuition would say that like a lot of people that go to see this movie, like for whatever reason that they're going to see it, I think that they would be more inclined to like it than not like it.
Okay.
And yeah, and like I said, like when I left it, it's like, fuck, I want to like this movie. Like I really want to like it. I really do. But I'm just like, based on just how confused I was by the time that it ended, it's like I don't really feel like I could say definitively. Like I can't give like reasons. Other than like superficial reasons, like the cinematography's nice and the costumes were cool and like the music and the sound design was really good.
Sometimes that's enough.
Sometimes it is, yeah. And I would say like the first like 2/3 of the story are good, and then like that last third of the story, I was just like, I actually don't know what the fuck's going on. So that I would usually, I feel like the story is like a pretty big component. So I would like to know how I feel about the story before I definitively say whether I liked it or not liked it. So I feel like, yeah, on a second watching, like knowing everything that I know, I'd be able to like, I'd be more prepared for like that third act kind of, not necessarily like twist, but just like when it gets a little bit more like twisty and turny, and I'd be able to like keep my bearings a little bit more. Because I just felt like a lot of stuff started happening, and it was like difficult to kind of keep track. Because this movie's it's very symbolic. There's a lot of there's a there's a lot of I feel like the shots are very like purposeful, and there's a lot of like signs and things of that nature, where it's like yeah, if you're kind of like your bearings are a little lost, that you're not going to get all the like meaningfulness out of all the shots, and
Yeah,
things like
I think
that.
Midsummer was like that.
Yeah, I felt a
Very
little
much like
confused when Midsummer ended too, but I feel like Midsummer was such a more like linear and like easy to understand story
Yeah.
that I didn't feel like this ambivalent.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would say I felt the most confused when Hereditary ended. It just like came out of nowhere.
yeah, like I said, I still haven't seen that one.
Oh shit. Well, here's what happens at the end.
I don't know, you better stop!
Okay, well, I won't spoil it for you then. um, so yeah, that's the review, I guess.
Yeah,
Watch it or don't fucking watch it. Fuck
yeah,
it.
we don't care. It's your money.
Yeah, yeah. Give a
Piece of
fuck. You
shit.
think I give a fuck?
Ooh, I'm gonna listen to Gallon and Chicken for 2 hours
Yeah.
instead.
This movie, I'm gonna edit it. It's gonna be like 3 minutes long.
It's just like 3 minutes of us talking and like an hour and 37 minutes of blurb.
Yeah.
Just
No, it's gonna be like all the dead spaces and the ums in between our sentences, just all put together. It's pretty good.
That was actually not bad at all.
Yeah. I liked.
Had a lot of good things going for it.
Yeah, I liked the slow pace of it, but it
did
wasn't super
too.
long, so like it kind of
Yeah.
evened out. And I like the way it was like divided up into chapters.
Mhm.
And most of all, so like this movie like kind of subverts expectations like every time. Like it's almost like he went through 3 tests and he passed them by not play. Like the only way to win is to not play, right? So like he went through that Fight Club thing, and he
Mhm.
didn't fight. He just got his ass beat. Then he got to the next stage, the next step, and he went to the
The
restaurant.
chef.
Yeah, when he went to the restaurant and met with the chef, he didn't like try and intimidate him or anything. He just
No, he like reminded him that he wasn't like being true to himself.
yeah, which was like a really good scene.
Yeah, I thought that was like probably the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, and finally, yeah, I really like the dialogue in that scene. Like that
I did too.
monologue that he gives. That was like that even hit home for me. I'm like, holy shit, dude. Yeah, because like I mean, how many of us like do fucking shit for shit we don't care about, for fucking people we
Yeah.
don't care about? Like that's our job. We live for that, and like they don't even know like you exist. And then the third one, like I thought he was gonna try to poison this guy. Like, oh, this is what it's building to, and he didn't. He just reminded him of what it was like to be happy, and he got the answer that he, not that he wanted, but that he was looking for.
Yeah.
So in a way, he just becomes like a very stoic character.
Yeah.
He maintains his composure throughout.
He was. Yeah, I was surprised about that as well. And yeah, I like Nick Cage in this. I don't like I know you said that you really like him. I didn't get to say anything about it, but I'm like pretty neutral on Nicolas Cage. I don't like him or dislike him. And like most of the stuff, yeah, I would say like most of the stuff that I've seen him in that I don't like is because the movie's not good, and not because he's not good. And then the stuff that I
you
like,
gotta separate him from what he's in.
yeah, and
Like
the stuff,
realize that he's still giving like a great performance, even if like he has very little to work with.
yeah. And then the stuff that I've liked with him in it, I've never like thought he's like bad or like a detriment to it or anything like that. So I guess you could say that like I mostly like him, but yeah, I liked him in this. I like old man Nick Cage. I thought he like looked good, and he was like a just like having Nicolas Cage be the actor that's like playing this character that is like, you feel like this guy has it almost felt like he's been at the highest of highs but at the lowest of lows, right? And he's just really tempered. and measured, and he's not. He just wants to like keep to himself and kind of like live and let live, and he's just trying to get from like A to B with like the least amount of like confrontation possible. And it seems like the whole movie, it feels like he's got the capacity to like go to a 10 and like really like escalate things and get things done that way, but he doesn't. He stays like really reserved and really conservative. And it was just really enjoyable to watch him like go from scene to scene. It took me a while to kind of like peg what the movie is supposed to be doing and how, because like he is covered in blood like the entire
the whole movie.
It's just like a little distracting at first because it like some of the scenes are just really ridiculous with him like covered in blood, like in the really nice restaurant.
In a restaurant.
But I also liked it because it just showed that like he was in this like constant state of focus on like getting his pig back, and he wasn't like concerned with other things. So it was like an interesting detail. And I thought the dialogue was good, and like I said, I mean, like when I said I wish I was high, I like meant that as like kind of like a term of endearment for the movie. I was like, man, this would be like an awesome movie to just be like really like focused in on, because I'm just like, because it's like very slow and like everything's happening very kind of like deliberately, but not in a way that's like obvious. I feel like you'd get a lot from watching this movie again, because like even like in the beginning, like I kind of noticed that he was the one that found the truffle and not his pig, but I didn't really like, I didn't really like pay much attention to it, where like once he brought it out, the pig was next to him, so I just assumed that like I didn't know what kind of the movie this was going to be, and like this movie is like actually like pretty well crafted, and so I thought maybe it was just like a sloppy detail or something like that, and it was, but like, and then he's like going home, and then he started like making like a pie or like a quiche or something like that, and I was just like, God, this guy is just like, this character is just like so many things, and I was still like, I had kind of like a reservation about the movie, because I'm like, it's Nicolas Cage, it's called Pig, it's about a pig that's gonna get stolen, and I thought it was gonna get like kind of off the rails at like one point, so I wasn't really like reading too much into anything. But then like once we got a little further into the movie and it started, I started to realize it was like a much tighter operation. It's like, I think if you went through and like watched it again, there'd be a lot of like little things you would see that would like make a second viewing like pretty satisfying. And I liked the like some like specific uses of like the camera shots and stuff like that. Like I liked when he was like getting the big Ed from the girl. I like that like wide shot that they were doing.
When he was getting the bread from the baker.
Yeah, when he was getting the salted baguette and he was talking to that girl. And it's weird because even though it was like a wide shot, that scene was still like kind of intimate.
Yeah.
Which is something that you wouldn't really kind of associate with that kind of like camera work. So there were a lot of cool things about this. It was actually like a really good palate cleanser for like a lot of the movies that I've just recently like watched. This one was like, it was like doing its thing. It did it really well, and it was easy to follow, and it was satisfying. I was sad that the pig died. That was like a very bitter sweet ending. And I mean, I guess like we're supposed to relate it to that, like he's like used to loss, because like clearly he's like lost his wife, and he just knows how to like move on and like appreciate a good thing for like what it is when you have it. Because like he didn't seem like bitter either, like through the whole movie. It wasn't like he was going to all these characters from his past and trying to really like rustle feathers or get something from them that he like didn't get in the past. He seemed very purposeful with like everything that he was doing, and he seemed very fulfilled. Like there was no this character was not like empty and in search of something. He just like wanted to kind of restore balance to his life that had previously been like unbalanced, and it looked like whatever he was doing out there in the woods, like that was something that he like deliberately decided. And even that like that speech about the like ocean like washing away Portland and stuff is like kind of sticks out, but at the same time it kind of makes sense if like he does believe that he would like go out into the woods and just kind of like set aside like this little piece of life for himself that he can enjoy while things can be enjoyed. Because it sounds like he just knows that like everything is temporary and that it could just go to shit any moment through things that are like not of your control.
Yeah.
And this was really cool.
Yeah,
I liked it a lot.
I enjoy it. I would recommend watching this one.
Yeah, I definitely would too. I would say like get like a joint and like a glass of liquor or something like that, a glass of booze, and just like chill out and watch this movie. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, don't expect an action movie. Like I didn't think it would be like John Wick because the thing about the poster tells me that it would be, and I didn't really watch any trailers for it. I just knew what the premise was.
Yeah, I think I read the synopsis and it just seemed very similar to like it was like this guy and it's Nicolas Cage, so like I think I made that assumption where I just read it's like a pig hunter in Portland like loses his pig and then he like goes to find it, and I'm like, oh okay, Nick Cage is in it, and it's like about a guy that loses an animal and then goes to find it, and I'm like, where have I heard of this before? You know, this is like this really cliche plot that these like action movies are just using to set up, you know, revenge porn essentially.
Yeah.
Or not revenge porn, but like, you know, just like murder porn, assassin porn.
Yeah, I mean, it is revenge porn, is what it is.
I think revenge porn is more like, I think that genre is
You're
typically
talking about this movie?
No.
I wouldn't say this movie is revenge porn.
No, not at all, not at all. No, I'm saying that I think that the term revenge porn is derived from movies that are about like that Promising Young Woman movie. That's more of like a revenge porn movie.
Yeah.
And there's like another. I remember when we watched like Mike and Jay's like review about that movie, they kept bringing up this other old movie that's about like an actress that gets raped or something like that, and then she spends like the whole movie like trying to kill the person that did it to her. I think those kind of movies are more associated with revenge porn. That's why I revised it to be murder porn. But then I would say like that's kind of broad as well. Like John Wick is more about like assassination, so maybe it's like stylized assassination porn. But this movie's none of those things. This movie is like a really good like slow like character piece.
Yeah.
And just good like craftsmanship, and like you know, it feels like a lot of time went into thinking about like the different scenes and the dialogue and like how they were all going to play out and the structure to the 3 different acts.
Yeah, I think it was well written, and a lot of the lines were like really profound, and they resonated with me.
Yeah.
Again, great performance from Nicolas Cage. It was distracting, the fact that he's just covered in blood the entire time, but
a little bit, but I mean, like, I think
he transcended all of that. Yeah, like you said,
Yeah.
he was hyper focused on his goal to the
Yeah.
point where he wasn't paying attention to all that stuff. So it made sense that it was like that. Also, it seemed like it all happened in the course of like one day.
I think 2, because they
Within 2
stayed
days.
at that hotel, and in the
Oh,
morning
right,
they were
yeah.
eating breakfast, and that's where he talked about the ocean.
Yeah.
And then that's when they drove to that place so he could get a lunch reservation from the hookup. So yeah, it seems like it was over 2, which is cool. I like stories that are like that are kind of like pretty contained. And then he like washed his face at the end, which was very like, you know, symbolic.
Catharsis and the
Yeah,
the
like, you know, he was
finality
like,
of it.
yeah, like I'm done with this. Like I can,
Yeah.
I'm moving on. I'm cleaning myself of like all this stuff that I've done. And then I like that he played that tape.
Yeah.
And not because I was like super curious about like what was on it, but like juxtaposed to like the beginning, it's like he started playing it in the beginning, and then stopped, and like that kind, like it feels a little shoehorned in, but I think he stops because like he's got the pig and he's like content. And so he's like, I don't need to listen to this. That's like that's like something that is from the past and is over.
Mhm.
And then when he came back, and I think that he just like listened to it to kind of like remind himself about like, I think it was more of like I want to like remember my wife, because when I remember her, I remember all the good things, and like that's how I want to like remember my pig. Is like I'm gonna move on with this, like when I think about her, it's gonna be like all the good memories and stuff like that. And it's kind of like him like bookmarking or bookending like this
Yeah.
like saga that he's been on with that whole thing. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, good movie, especially compared to all the
Yeah, good thing we didn't do
garbage.
we didn't try and do a commentary track, because we really didn't say much about anything
Yeah, a
other
lot
than the
of it
fact
was
that
quiet.
like, yeah, all we were basically saying was that he was like covered in blood, but like otherwise every scene was like pretty profound and like had our
Yeah.
attention.
That's how you know that it's like a good movie, is if you're like
Yeah, it's like
just
you're just like
like
not
that.
saying anything. You're like really
Yeah.
interested with like what's going on with the characters.
Yeah, as opposed to like the minor details
Hmm.
or the problems, the glaring issues with it, which I don't think there were any.
Yeah, when it's a simple story, they're able to avoid a lot of the like giant plot issues and writing issues that a lot of other movies have today.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so well done. I appreciated
yeah,
it.
this was good. I'm glad we got to finally see it.